Welcome back, viewer, to Chungu cha Jamii. Today we are talking about education in the crucial stages of SRHR. So before we went on a break, we were talking about, and you're elaborating in the sense of why it is important for us to educate our young boys and young girls to have more informed, to have more information and to be able to make informed decision in whatever they're doing moving forward. How is it when you're interacting with different students and also different schools? How informed are they? One, two, how are they? How open are they to this? How do I name it? How open are they into learning and understanding what SRHR means actually, and what they're supposed to know and understand?
Okay, so thank you so much for that question. Like I said, we strive as much as possible to create a safe space for these kids. First thing, there's an assumption, and this assumption is just based on the research that we've done, that indeed these students don't have as much exposure to SRHR. So bearing that in mind, we don't want it to be like a group affair or the whole school affair. We want it to be a safe space. So we tend to divide them into groups. Just randomly, we can have different levels in one group. And then we have every group having a facilitator who is a respect volunteer talking about SRHR. And in that group, they are going to be enlightened about several things. And it is good to note that this is not a one-day thing. It's something that we do continuously. So we will not bombard the student with a lot of information that will make them even more confused than we actually came there. So we'll introduce the topics in bits, discuss about them, hear out their suggestions, what they know about the topic, and in case you feel that the group may not be as open enough as you tend to think they should be, we usually carry some sticky notes. So we give each and every student a sticky note, and they are free to write any question they have with regard to the topic that you guys are discussing about. And something that may be very embarrassing for you to state it in when you have a bigger audience, for example, or even in that group setting, maybe there's someone you're not comfortable, you hearing the same question from you. So we tend to create a safe space, try to answer from a point of what we know to what we don't know. At that point, you can ask, like there is a question that is frequently asked, can you get pregnant when you actually do intercourse while standing? And this is because there's a myth out there that everything falls from gravity and you will tend not to contract the pregnancy because you were standing. And yeah, it's always good to tell, at that point now you start explaining to them that even in your body you have blood, and it comes all the way from the legs to the heart, which is up here. So even if you do it while standing, it will still get its way towards the ovary, and actually you will conceive. So yeah, we talked from a point of what you know to a point of what you don't know, trying to explain everything in bits.
SRHR, it's very broad and diverse and covers all ages. We've majorly talked about the teenagers. How do you bring in the same concept now to the working space?
Okay, so to the working space, maybe I can talk a bit about we who are still being trained for us to transit to the working place. So we have something we call an intense chat series. So for this one, it is the audience is basically the university students, trying to explain to them more about SRHR and several things that encompass SRHR. So it's a 10-day series where each and every university chapter that has Respect volunteers takes charge of a certain chat. They talk about a certain topic on a WhatsApp group where we invite everyone from across the board. We may have Gen Zs and millennials there, all of them just coming to understand about a particular topic from the expertise that we've learned in Respect, because we have been trained how to do it, how to expose people from a level of and approach a topic from a level of what we know to a level of what we don't know, trying to explain everything that we don't confuse them. So that is what we normally do in the intense chat series. We shall be having one happening from late this July to around that is from around 19th to 27th July, just a 10-day thing discussing about SRHR related topic. And then after we do that, what we normally do to the workplace, they can basically interact with our content throughout our social media platforms. This is where we normally record reels, expounding more, maybe a skit about a certain SRHR related problem, telling them about what they are supposed to do when they are faced with maybe a workplace molestation of their sexual rights. We even saw someone the other day complaining that the lady was, he was a gentleman, and the lady was telling her some things that, was telling him some things that he didn't seem were right. Maybe he was calling him a boy, I guess, recently from a story. So we tell them how they're supposed to act on those things, what they are supposed to, the rights they're supposed to experience, and yeah, that we mainly do on our social media platforms. We have Instagram, we have TikTok and all that. Yeah.
To interrupt you on that.
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to understand, and also for our viewer to understand
Mm-hmm.
back at home and also in the offices,
Mm-hmm.
maybe is necessarily what are those things that you teach? Because now we've
Mm-hmm.
majored, like I mentioned before, we've majored in the
Mm-hmm.
teenagers, but now in the working space, what are these colleagues need to know about the SRHR? Because we also have cases before of people being sexually victimized and also sexually abused, for them to maybe get a higher position at workplace, or maybe a colleague who is just abusive naturally, maybe how they're brought up, having traumas and everything. You may not know what traumas I'm battling today. Maybe also from my culture, maybe if a man touches me, it's wrong. So how do I narrow it to the understanding of SRHR, and for me to be able to make the informed decision that you had mentioned before in what steps to take moving forward?
Okay. Pardon me, I hadn't understood your question at first. So what we normally do is advocate for what our MP, the body girl in the parliament, she said that good girls don't get the corner office. So it's always good to know your boundaries and set your boundaries. So we advocate for a good working space relationship where you're supposed to be professional when it comes to the job that you're handling. You're not supposed to, there are customs that you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. And this mainly happens by ensuring during that time that we're trying to bridge the gap between education and workplace. We know, especially during this intense chat series, and sometimes during these media interviews, talking to them about what we think is a good working relationship. And basically telling them about what they should experience psychologically in terms of culture and all that. Like, for example, in an office, you're just supposed to work on what what is within your mandates and your roles. You're not supposed to have extracurricular relationship, and if at all it will be there, it should be very professional for you to be able to control your boundaries. You should also know to what length you're willing to go. That also brings about the concept of consent. So this is what you're able to do, and this is what you're not able to do. You should be able to speak it out with clarity. So yeah, we normally do it during these media interviews. Sometimes we have leadership sessions where we talk to them about good leadership skills, enhancing skills such as communication, such as negotiating, such as time management, because even with some bad relationship, you may not be able to effectively manage your time at a work office place. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, maybe one of the same question, if you're morphing it from a workplace to the old generation, whereby you're talking to the senior citizens, we are talking about 55 years and above, who are also not maybe informed currently about the SRHR. When you're going back to the villages, when you're going to the vulnerable places, how do you talk to the senior citizens? Because if I'm to welcome you maybe to our village to talk to us about SRHR, you're going to meet us as a mixed village, whereby we have the teenagers, we have the young adults, we have the adults, and we have now the senior citizens. You've categorically said that you separate them in terms of age and also in groups where they'll be able to talk and be able to a safe space for them to open up. In this safe space for the 55 years old and above, those are the senior citizens, what do you talk to them about?
Okay, so currently, like I said, RESPECT stands for Reproductive and Sexual Health Program for Kenyan teenagers. So we have not dwelt much on the older generation, but basically on the teenagers and the just post-teens a little bit, because we've done it in campus, and through our alumni programs, we tend to a bit work on the workspace. So maybe it's something we can venture in the long run. Yeah.
Okay, interesting, because I think I didn't understand with respect to the care for the teenagers only. Okay, moving on. When you're having this safe space for the teenagers, what do they talk about? What is the emphasis? You had mentioned before, but what are their fears? And from the perspective that you mentioned of talking to them from the perspective of what you know to what you don't know, what is it that you find generally across the different regions where you are able to talk to the teens? What are these general things that you look and see that this one is common across all areas in terms of knowing, and also this one is common across all areas in terms of not knowing?
So some of the general things that we realize when we are implementing our program in these schools, first thing is most of the other programs that have almost the same implementation as ours tend to separate the genders. So for us, we tend to tell everyone everything that encompasses SRHR. So that's a very huge disparity, where you get some of the organizations that go to these schools will go there and separate the gents from the ladies and tell them completely different things that are gender-based. You will not tend to tell the other gender what to expect, maybe on a certain thing. And what is leads is we get some information breakdown at some point, because if the person who is available to help a lady at that time is a gent, he will not be able to help the lady because they have not been exposed to such kind of a knowledge. Like right now, we have some people who complain about endometriosis. They are very old, around 25, 27. They're a bit old past the teenage age, that they were supposed to be talked about the different ways of tackling that. But you may find in the same house there's a gent who was never exposed to such a thing. Maybe they've learned about the definition of it in school and all that, and they may tend not to understand the lady what they are going through. And sometimes you even hear, like, there's a lot of mental problem that go through around that time when you're going through that pain, because the person who is supposed to help you manage the pain, he or she is even causing more pain, because they are saying, why are you behaving in a way as if you're the only lady who experiences menstrual pains, and they may not tend to understand this is even worse than the menstrual pain. Even when you're experiencing normal menstrual pains, they may not even understand. This is because while we were educating the ladies on how to go about the menstrual period time, we did not educate the other gender, which is the male gender, and they may tend to be with them in the same room and may not be able to understand what it encompasses. So that's one major thing that we have discovered. Another thing is there are a lot of myths around SRHR. So many of them. I talked about one of them a bit earlier on in the program. Another thing that we get sometimes is there are so many myths that we get during the schools that some of these concepts you're not supposed to tell the students because they may tend to get more curious. But according to our study, what normally happens, we may get 1 out of 5 becoming curious, but we get the other 4 making a better informed decision. So the advantages and the benefits are way more than the risk involved while you're teaching them about the different sections of SRHR. So it's always good to talk about it and advocate for it. Some of the benefits we've gotten from engaging students from that is driving them to a point of conversation where they can talk about SRHR and actually understand more about what they can advocate for and what they are not supposed to engage in. Yeah.
Moving on, what are some of the legal rights are we supposed to understand when you're talking about the SRHR?
Okay, so some of the legal rights is, first thing, most of these rights will encompass a bit of sensitive things like gender-based violence and rape. So at such an instance, you're supposed to report. You have a right to report. So whatever has happened, you have a right to say that you didn't have consent for it, whether you're a male, whether you're a female. Another thing, you have a right to the healthcare providence from the healthcare professionals. We have some stations that have set up a healthcare professional set up where the rape cases and the gender-based violence cases can be accommodated in a safe space. You talk to them and as well as educate them, as well as give them the 72-hour care that normally takes place to help you not get the STIs and maybe not conceive if you didn't want to conceive. So another right you have is the right to justice. So whoever had molested you, whoever had raped you, whoever had violated any of your rights, you need to get justice for that, and the courts assured that of that. Another right is if your health is in danger and that is because of the baby that you're carrying at that particular point, you have a right for you to terminate the pregnancy. And that is only after a healthcare professional has sat down and actually declared your health is at risk. In as much as we said life starts immediately after conception, if this life that has been conceived is posing a danger to you yourself, that at that point the healthcare professional can recommend you to terminate the pregnancy. You have a right to consent. You have a right to you have a right when you don't want to continue conceiving more babies. You have a right to other contraceptive measures like maybe vasectomy and tubal ligation for the ladies. That's their form of vasectomy. You have there are so many rights around SRHR. Yeah, that is what I could name in a few. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Moving on. What are some of the challenges and the barriers do you face when you're advocating for SRHR?
Now, one of them is the cultural and religious beliefs. Like we saw at the start of the session, it's very hard for you to convince someone that indeed your program will bring more benefits than harm, because you also need to seek consent from the school itself before you implement your program. And in some schools, they say you're coming here to teach our children about sexual intercourse. You're exposing them to content that will make them more curious about whatever happens, how they feel maybe at that particular period or time that they're doing it, and you will end up causing more harm than benefits to our kids. But what they don't understand is from our study, it proves to be more helpful when you make a more informed decision than when you actually don't know what will happen. Another thing is some religious beliefs believe that you're not supposed to get some healthcare assistance. So in as much as we talk to you about your rights and all that, you may tend not to go and seek justice for those rights, mainly because of whatever teachings you've been exposed to at a religious point of view. Another thing is we get some. It's very hard to talk to someone about it, mainly because it's very shameful to talk about it. So even getting someone to talk about it is actually a problem. So we need to, that is why we have a leadership program where we can actually talk to them and advocate SRHR in broad length, tell them about the benefits of having such a program for teenagers, other than not just delving into the issue itself and helping to tackle it at grassroots level. Yeah.
Interesting. As you have talked about the challenges, I want us to talk also about how you're able to bring in the community, because if it is something that you want it to be embraced and it's something that you're advocating for, you also have to work closely with the community. Not only, also a school is a community. You're not working with individuals themselves. So what are the measures that you look into emphasizing on when you're working with the community in regards to SRHR?
Okay, so
briefly, let me cut you short briefly, as you also gave us your parting shot.
Okay, so what we do at community level, sometimes we partner with different institutions. Sometimes we've partnered with things, some CBOs like Barrier Breakers Youth Initiative that do their initiatives at community level, not particularly the school level. We've visited some teen months in slum areas, talked to them about the way forward, asked them to consider continuing with their education levels. We've taken We've taken part in some pad drives to take the pads to students, as well as educate them on good menstrual hygiene, talk to them about how they're supposed to correctly wear their pads, how they're supposed to try and choose from different pads, their comfortability and all that. We've also been able to convene webinars where we talk to, besides the chat series, trying to talk to different people about it. We've also taken part in policy formulations to help the community, to help different stakeholders follow on certain policies that can help advance the SRHR advocacy. That is basically much of more what we've done at community level. Yeah. For my parting shot, let's try and create a safe space where we can learn more about SRHR and actually commit more about its advocacy. It's always good to talk about it, and it's always good to make an informed decision. You as a parent back at home, try and talk to your kid about it. Don't let the teacher alone do it, because from a study that was done during COVID, we realized that so many teenage pregnancies happened during the time that they were away from school, mainly because the parents had not done their part. They leave it all to the teachers. So try and teach your child from home. Thank you.
Thank you so much for honoring our invite and having this insightful conversation. Viewer, let's continue this conversation online across all our social media networks. That's GBS TV Africa. Our SMS line is 21144. Till next time, have a nice time. Goodbye.